and the rest of them. Caller, you're live on the air. What's your name, comment, and or question?
Umar from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn's in the house. Umar, my favorite person I know. You're really on the fourth person I know from Brooklyn. What's happening, man?
Okay, I'm going to take this from another direction because there's something I'm curious about. I don't know exactly what happened because I run my own business and
you're too busy for all that.
My catching news, I don't watch cable news anymore because it offends me. And, you know, you YouTubers, y'all getting slow on this news thing. I'm kidding. Here's what I'm wondering. Now, if I'm understanding the gist of this, we had another group of Black Lives Matter who tried to disrupt the Bernie Sanders thing again.
Yes, last night
in Minnesota.
First
time, I'm going to say, okay, I get where you're coming from, but as Bernie Sanders has laid out his platform, and you know, he might not get the exposure, but the Black Lives Matter people appear to me people who are savvy on social media and stuff.
Right.
What scares me about what's being described here is this. I'm in New York, so I saw firsthand the Occupy Wall Street thing.
Right.
And the major problem with them wasn't that what they were saying was wrong. It's the scatteredness, the incohesion of their message. It kept making me think, okay, I get where you guys are coming, but aren't you on Facebook? Are you all organizing in any way, shape, or form? Because, hey, the Tea Party is organized on Twitter and Facebook.
Right. They're seriously organized.
So it sounds to me like, and I think whatever the Black Lives Matter, any disruption of a Bernie Sanders meeting or rally at this point demonstrates ignorance. Ignorance you should not have. You're running a cogent movement. You should have. Didn't you check with your leadership? I mean, I think that if you sent the man some kind of, like you said, news thing, he might have invited you up to the stage.
Exactly.
I don't understand but that also is this is what frightened me about it. I don't want them to go the way of the
Occupy Wall Street.
Occupy Wall Street.
Right.
Because all you need to do is organize. And organizing is not like it was yesterday. And if we could do it in the 60s when there was no Facebook or Twitter or internet,
right on.
What's the problem now? I don't get it.
The problem now
is you hashtag.
The problem now is that there is this belief, the Occupy model, which whether people know it or not, you know, Occupy Wall Street, even though it was relatively a bunch of white people, was really the precursor to Black Lives Matter on a lot of levels, especially in the manner in which they organize or the lack thereof. There's this decentralization theory, the decentralized power and structure where they want to all be autonomous, go underneath the mantle of Occupy and go underneath the mantle of Black Lives Matter without central leadership, right? And so because central leadership often represents authoritarian rule, which people who lean towards the left tend to buck against a whole lot more than people on the right, which is why the Tea Party has been enormously successful to the detriment of our nation, because they are subservient to power structures and they are looking for that centralized leadership and those marching orders, and they get them every single day. And that's why they have people in Congress who are Tea Partiers. We don't have anybody in Congress that I know of that is an Occupy Wall Streeter, and we don't have anybody yet in Congress that is a Black Lives Matterist, if that's the how I'm going to do that word. So the point is that it's to the detriment of them, because they're this ethos that there should be no central authority. And for all intents and purposes, I'm with you, Umar, is that you're losing a lot of your potential because you can't organize and rein in people who are detrimental to your movement. And what ends up happening, and I'll let you get the last word, what ends up happening is what we saw in Seattle, where people, those two young women went on stage and created this quote unquote action that really was nothing more, in my opinion, than a disruption that accomplished nothing more than Netroots Nation already had accomplished. But because they went underneath the mantle of Black Lives Matter, the actual organization had to go in and embrace them and bring them in and protect them from all of the get back that they were getting, which was a ding on Black Lives Matter. So they are embracing them after the fact. And I'm like, with you guys need some structure from the top down. You don't have to be authoritarian. You don't have to be dictatorial. You don't have to be like the Tea Party, but some general direction would be beneficial. Umar, you get the last word.
And well, this is what I was saying several weeks ago when I was saying, We have got to start. We've got to start putting into action some of the things that the conservatives and the Tea Party puts into action. I wasn't talking about espousing crazy theories.
Right.
I'm talking about in the way they organize.
Absolutely.
And when they want groups, look at that Tim Davis thing. Okay, it wasn't a big crowd, but they got that crowd together through organization. It's very simple organization. And I think this agrees with what you were saying. When you start thinking that you can't use any part of the system, a system, like it or not, you're a part of it.
Right.
It's like that. Get over it. You're not going to change the system by going back to Africa or starting a separate nation. It must be changed from within.
Absolutely.
There's no other way at this point, because this is the way the world is. We didn't create it, but it is our job to change it. And while they have put the tools out there that they use, they've given us the exact same tools.
Exactly.
But they know we won't use them. Like my father used to say, I hate to use a black phrase, but this is how my father put it. How do you hide a book from black people?
Put it in the newspaper.
Put it right in the middle of the shelf. Put the information you don't want them to have on the top, so they keep reaching for it. That's all I got to say.
Thanks so much for the call, Umar from Brooklyn. Appreciate it. 857-600-0518. I'm going to get a couple more calls in before we call it a night, but that's absolutely true. I don't think that it could be said of me or people who listen to me, for the most part, that we do not support Black Lives Matter. Well, what will and should be said is that we don't support Black Lives Matter when the actions are meaningless and have no pointed outcome in mind. Like I said at the top of the show, everyone who disrupts does not constitute an action. And everyone who's saying and yelling Black Lives Matter is not necessarily representative of the organization. And I think that's what we saw last night, because I didn't see a press release. I didn't see a purpose. All I saw were tweets from people who got pushed from being on stage to being in the press box, which was a pretty damn good seat. Honestly, it's a really good seat, but you know, whatever. And the expectation that you somehow are entitled to be free to interrupt and disrupt without anyone confronting you. It doesn't work like that. I have every expectation that every word I put out is going to bring an equal amount of trolls to attack my words, right? It's actually part of the job description. You don't get to go out and advocate for something and not get pushback from an opposing force. And the expectation thereof is naivete.